Today I'm going to be sharing with you a traumatic experience that I had when I was in college. I haven't talked about this in a long time, so I'm not sure how this is going to go. I think it's going to be smooth sailing, but like I said, it's been a long time, so I have no idea how it's going to go. But if you're new here, my name is Allison and welcome to Zach and Allison. As you can probably tell, my husband Zach is not joining me today because this is my story, so I will be flying solo today. But typically we make content on adventure, whether we're trying new things, exploring new places, or simply just having fun. So I hope you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for our next adventure, and we upload a new video every single Saturday. We are Zach and Allison. We try to live every day as an adventure. We love trying new things, exploring food, nature, and strive to be healthy both physically and mentally. Stick around and join us on whatever adventure we go on to next. Before we get into the main details of the story, I'm gonna start off with a little bit of background information, and I'm just gonna go right on into it. So I'm about 21, 22 years old at the time, in a transitional period in my life, trying to figure out what my life should look like. And I, on a whim, decided to go away to school, but because I was older, I didn't want to live on campus. So I hunted for a roommate and took my hunt to Craigslist. I responded to an ad, we became Facebook friends, we realized we had mutual friends, so I felt pretty confident I wasn't gonna get murdered. And we actually grew up 5 minutes from each other. So we met up the next day, we drove to our college campus, and we tried to figure out where we were going to live. She did already have a deposit on an apartment, but we did consider other options. And we ended up going to live in a house with 5 other girls. So there was a total of 7 of us girls living in this house. Now, she previously knew these girls because she went to high school with them, but I didn't know any of them. I moved into a house with 6 strangers. So everything is going really well at this point. I'm having the time of my life, meeting a ton of people, and just living my best life. And at this point, we're about 6 weeks to 2 months in at this point, and this was homecoming day. Of course, you have a great time on homecoming, and this is actually the day that Zach, my husband now, asked me out, so just had to slide that in there. So that was one happy thing that happened that day. Moving on into the nighttime, it was about 11 o'clock that night, and I was actually at Zach's house, and they were having a little party because it was homecoming, and I get a call from my roommate, and she says, "You need to come home, our house was broken into." So I run home as fast as I can. It was maybe a mile, maybe a little bit less, and it was probably my fastest mile I've ever ran. So I get there, all of my stuff is gone. My computer, my TV, everything expensive is gone. And it's a pretty violating feeling when somebody you don't know is going through your stuff. Just getting broken into in itself is terrible and terrifying. After that, I went on my way, and then the next day we were trying to figure out how to feel safe because we were scared, and it just wasn't a good feeling. And so we were trying to figure that out, and we convinced our landlord to let us get a dog. So at this point, we get the dog, and it's Halloween. All but 3 of my roommates go out, and then 3 of us stay. And in the house that I lived in, it was 3 stories. There was the top floor, the middle floor that had a kitchen and like a living room, and then I lived in the basement that also had another kitchen. And so because we just got a dog, my one roommate had to work, and so I decided to sleep on the couches in the living room on the main floor with the dog. And I'm really glad I did because I would have hated for my roommate to be up there alone at this time. So it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I hear this girl laughing on our porch, and I to this day swear that it sounded just like my roommate, and I thought it was them coming home from Halloween. I almost opened the door, and then my other roommate came out of her room, which is right by the front door, and said, "Stop. It's not them." And it is just not like me to not be aware. So I just like thank God every day that she noticed that, because I grew up teaching self-defense, and that was stupid on my part. I'll just say that. And so we don't open the door, we tell them we don't know them, and they're at the wrong house, and things just escalated quickly. They start yelling, "Open the door, we just want you, we don't care about your stuff, open the effing door." And we told them no, 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 over and over. and it just kept getting worse and worse. And then they started kicking the door in. So I jump into action and I turn around and I do a wall sit on the door, holding the door closed. And we call 911 and they're kicking the door over and over and over and yelling, "We don't care about your stuff, we want you. Open the door," over and over and over and over. And they kicked the door so hard that it shattered our entire door frame. And so the door would open and we would slam it back shut. And I don't really remember, to be honest, what my other two roommates were doing. I remember my one roommate was on the phone with the police, and then my other roommate, she came upstairs because she was downstairs. And I don't really remember at what point she came upstairs. But she was on the phone with the police. I was trying to call our landlord to come over, and I just kept the door shut. Eventually the police came, they ran off, and they never caught them. But being in a situation where you don't know what's gonna happen if they open that door is terrifying. I never once was in a situation until that night where I thought I was truly going to die, or that I could die, or whatever. I don't know, right? Like, and I thank God every single day that they never got in. Because if they would have gotten in, who knows what would have happened. And to this day, I actually suffer a permanent back injury because of that night. But I will take that back injury over anything else that could have happened that night. And I thank God that nothing else happened. But it's traumatizing. When you're fighting for your life and terrified for your life, it's an experience that you cannot explain unless you've experienced it. And this was about 7 years ago. I have overcome a lot with this situation. It's a lot easier for me to talk about, but I still feel like I struggle and suffer from PTSD. When I hear loud noises at night, I wake up and I freak out. I have 2 dogs here to protect me because of that night. And for a long time, I couldn't sleep alone, and I was terrified. And I'm at a point now where I live a normal life and it doesn't really affect me on a day-to-day basis, but there are times where I start to dream about it and it comes back to the surface, and then I had to calm myself down and bring myself back to reality. But it was terrible. It was terrible, but I'm just really grateful that nothing else happened. None of us were seriously hurt or anything else. It could have been so much worse. I just want to end with this. Don't ever have that attitude that nothing's going to happen, because that is the worst way of thinking. I fall guilty of that. I grew up in martial arts. I'm a 3rd degree black belt. I taught self-defense. I taught martial arts for years. And I had this in my mind that because I know how to defend myself and I'm 6 foot tall, that I'm probably never going to have to use these skills or know how to react. And that was the worst way of thinking. Like, I was attacked. I did have to defend myself, and I was a victim, so it can happen to anybody. I don't want you to walk away terrified, but what I do want you to do is go take some self-defense classes. Practice your self-defense. Practice using your voice and learning how to yell and attract attention, and just be prepared in case something ever does happen. But again, thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for our next adventure, and we'll see you next time. Bye.